You following it on Facebook, Bob?
What's that?
Are you watching it on Facebook?
I thought I might have a problem with that if it like crossed over. So I'm not.
Okay.
Should I?
No, I got it. I just, if there's anything, I'll sort of tell you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't want to jump on it, and if I was like an echo or something like that, you know what I mean?
I do.
Do you hear that?
I did.
I'm trying. I'm already texting the wife.
No, that was, it's like that. What was that band that they said that when they were recording that song, somebody in the background was getting clobbered?
I'm not sure.
So how'd your meeting go with the soccer? You gonna get that responsibility?
I think so.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah, I think there's just there's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, I think everything's going to work out, and there'll be a lot of focus down there on really for the next year. We'll open up in July for the new stadium, and that's going to be we got to sell out. We got to pack the house, and the good news is Columbus has been very supportive, so we're we're very fortunate for that.
Yeah. About 15, 17,000 still, or is the stadium going to be bigger?
It'll be about 20. It's about 20 right now too. So it's fairly, I'll say this, same amount of seats, but you'll feel a completely different experience. Just having a roof over your head and somewhat out of the elements in terms of, being rained on, snow, things like that. It'll make a complete difference.
Better
We
experience.
think it's going to be one of the best stadiums, if not the best stadium in soccer.
Yeah, 330 million ought to get it.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, I think we're ready to go. Yes. Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Welcome to Youngstown State University's Alumni Lecture Series. This presentation is being broadcast on Facebook with the Alumni Engagement Facebook page at YSU. It's also being streamed on WebEx for those of you who aren't members of Facebook. So welcome to you all, and thanks for being with us this evening. Tonight's presentation is titled An Inside Look at Sports Management with our guest speaker and YSU alumni Bob Sivik, who is Vice President in charge of ticket sales right now and organizational opportunities and events with the Haslam Sports Group. And Haslam Sports Group, for those of you who don't know, are the owners of the Cleveland Browns as well as the Columbus Crew MLS soccer team. So thanks for being with us, Bob.
Thank you.
My name is John Rossi. I'm a YSU alumni as well. I'm also a senior lecturer in the marketing department at Williamson College of Business. I teach and lead a number of courses, including professional selling, sales management, negotiation, organizational purchasing, and I also lead a course in sports marketing, which is focused on marketing of sports and marketing through sports. So I'm really excited to hear what Bob has to say about the sports industry, as well as the markets and sports Bob's organization is involved with. After Bob's presentation, just a matter of housekeeping, after Bob's presentation and now during the presentation, because we have Heather Belgin, who's the Associate Director of Alumni and Events at YSU, helping us coordinate the chat. You can ask your questions at any time during the presentation this evening. So let's get started with a brief introduction of Bob, and then I'll hand it over to him. Bob's one of Williamson College of Business's most successful marketing management majors. Thank you very much. Bob also played football for YSU between the years of 1997 and 2001. He graduated in 2002, as I recall. And again, the YSU football team, when Bob was a member, won the national championship in 1997. And I think they were runner-up in 1999. So as a linebacker, I'm sure he has some stories there as well. In fact, Bob was team captain in 2001. From a business perspective, Bob has had a great path in terms of sports industry, in terms of the sports industry. He was vice president of ticket sales with the Columbus Blue Jackets, the NHL team in Columbus. He was also director of inside sales and organizational sales at the Cleveland Cavaliers for almost a decade. He now has a role as vice president of ticket sales with the Haslam Sports Group and has responsibility, expanded responsibility now for both the Cleveland Browns and the Columbus Crew Soccer Club. He lives in Northeastern Ohio, has a lovely wife, Jackie, and two sons, Hudson and Bennett. Great to see you, Bob. Thanks again for participating. We appreciate it. And as they say, the screen is yours.
All right. Well, first off, appreciate the introduction. And, again, if I'm even half as successful as some of our previous alumni, I'll be very happy and thrilled with that. One thing that, I'd like to do today is thank all of you for taking the time out of your day and maybe learn a little bit more about what I do or what we do in the sports industry. And certainly, again, like anything else in kind of the Youngstown way, try to help anybody out that I possibly can. So, find ways to network, all that good stuff. And we'll do what we can to make sure that we continue to help each other out. So great intro, John. Really appreciate that. One of the things I'll touch on is just my career path, but I grew up in Mentor, Ohio. Obviously, John mentioned going to Youngstown State from 97, graduated in 02. I was a Leiden House, graduate, Weller House, lived over on Bryson Ave, and really enjoyed my time at Youngstown. And I think it's funny how many times that I go through my career that I see like what I learned there and how I was just molded by professors, coaches, teammates, classmates, that have really put me in a position to be more successful. And, I think that's been a really good testament to the programs and everything that it goes on there. So I got my first job out of school and came out, started working for the Cleveland Cavaliers in inside sales. And what was really interesting about that was that I started off and it was a $13,000 a year job. It was right after 9/11. Jobs were very hard to come by, and no health benefits and a 12-month gig. So I'm no offense to Youngstown at the time, but I remember like holding my resume out and just shaking it and just being like, what the heck did I do at school to get this type of job? But I took it nonetheless, and really, like anything else, if I do anything, I put my all into it. And what I found is that when going through it, what YSU prepared me for was just that, to be competitive in the job market. I was promoted in about 7 months to a full-time job. And the coolest part about that, and working for the Cavs, it was pre-LeBron. So I think actually starting off in that type of role with that team, we won 17 games. We were worse than the league, and we all know what happened that next year and who we drafted. But when we went through that process, I had to learn the business very hard. I had to go through the toughest part about it. I always equate it to that mentality of it's that Andy Dufresne. I'm going to crawl through the tunnel for 3 football fields, and then come out on the end, and that's when it's all going to pay off. And I believe it has. So from there, I worked my way up. I was doing a lot of different things. Eventually, over time, I was actually the director of sustainability, new business development, organizational sales, before I ended up leaving. So taking the job down in Columbus with as the VP of ticket sales and service for the Blue Jackets. And great, kind of spreading my wings out, trying to learn and build my own program. I knew nothing about hockey besides maybe, what I started picking up from the Cleveland Monsters and just having them and friendships that I developed with people on that team when I worked at the Q. But it was very, very cool, though, for me, because, when I went down there, I was able to build my philosophies and how I was going to manage, an overall team. And, some of those things were, developing real good peak on peak strategies, right? Hiring the best people, giving them the best resources and allowing them to do their jobs. And then have me as, kind of a post to lean on when they had questions or when they needed maybe a little bit more motivation through the process. So I eventually ended up, from there, I really miss Northeast Ohio. I will say that, people in our industry can bounce around quite a bit. But one of the things I missed a lot was just my family and some friends and close people to me. So, but also it didn't hurt that a job opened up with the Cleveland Browns, and I ended up jumping on that as soon as possible. So great to come home. I really do put my family first. But my role is really here with Haslam Sports Group now, is to really oversee all ticketing programs for the Browns and the crew. Main responsibilities to provide great service for our fans, to put, again, butts in the seats, is the old saying, and make sure that, those are all of our Browns and crew fans. We want to fill the stadium. And then on top of it, from the business side, obviously, I want to make sure that I'm bringing in great talent to our organization, that we're bringing in, the best people we possibly can to build our program and to be the future leaders within our organizations. So that's kind of the gist of where I'm at and how I got here. Now, really, the understanding of like careers in sports, I want to touch on a little bit is just understanding, maybe what's important to us with the Browns and the crew and Haslam Sports Group is we really have three major goals, right? We want to win, right? And like make no mistake about it. Almost every single conversation I'm in with our ownership group, leadership, anybody, all we talk about is what are we doing to help our team win football games. And I think we're on the cusp of that, a variety of different ways. Secondly, we want to take great care of our fans. The only reason why we're in existence is because our awesome fan bases decide to come out, dish out their hard-earned money to come in and enjoy themselves, and we want to provide the best experience possible, but also tied back to some of that comes with winning, right? Sometimes winning cures a lot of things. And then the last thing is just something is very passionate about me too. When I was at Youngstown and within our football program, I was the Robert Frost Outreach Man of the Year, and I love giving back. And one of the things that I loved about the Browns and Haslam Sports Group and the crew is that one of our major pillars is giving back to our community, and I think that helps us out tremendously. So. But the other thing is that, we are a for-profit business. And I think a lot of the things I might talk about today, whether you're in sports, whether you're in, any type of industry out there, is going to be somewhat universal. So if you think about it, we've got building operations, marketing, community relations, right? You might have a little more focus on media or broadcasting than, just your average company, but everyone has some form of that. Finance, accounting, analytics, kind of everybody's favorite these days is how we're working smarter. Obviously, there's everybody's favorite within sports is kind of that pie in the sky job is working as football operations, whether it be scouting or, coaching or, you're the next GM type of mentality. And obviously that, everyone has aspirations for those. But some things that probably a little closer to me is the revenue generating side of what we do is, corporate partnerships is, the media, right? So I always say that, most people say corporate partnerships are used to be called corporate sales. It's just that. It is sales. Like you're trying to get, organizations that have these large dollars that need to spend money on marketing to advance their businesses and partner with them in a way that's mutually beneficial. That allows them to grow their business. And I think, it's amazing how much focus that we put on that with our partners and how we treat them and the ways that, we try to help them grow their businesses. So when we're successful, or when they're successful, obviously we're successful and vice versa. There's always some different paths to reach those types of jobs. So going through ad sales or potentially even obviously on the ticket sales side of it, you can advance to get to those deals. But just to give you an example of a partnership would be like a large deal would be like a naming rights. So you see, First Energy Stadium, or you hopefully see here a naming rights deal down in Columbus, which we're still working on. But jersey patches, things like that, in stadium signage, that all that kind of falls under that umbrella. And then
so we're going to not have Snickers anymore.
What's that?
We're not going to have Snickers at Columbus Crew anymore.
I don't know. We'll never know. I'll save that one for the imagination.
Yeah, my daughter put Barbazol, and she was working for Barbazol at the time.
Yep. They worked with us for a while, and again, a good partner. And I think we've been working with Mapfre now. We've got a few others, just some really good naming rights deals we just announced this year with Ohio Health and with Nationwide was another marquee one. So again, following suit with some of the best companies, I think in this world, but also in that region, the companies have been very, very supportive. Columbus has this unbelievable connection with business and their sports teams. Very, very beneficial for that. So then last one I'll touch on briefly is just what's closer to me is the ticket sales piece, right? So, it's interesting because a lot of the way that we do things, if you look at our product, like if you just look at a general salesperson, you're like, all right, what do you sell? I mean, we sell the team, right? Sometimes you're selling wins and losses. Sometimes you're selling the fact that the ball bounced the wrong way the day before on Sunday, and yeah, you lost the game, and that might change the entire outcome of your product for the rest of the year. So it is a little different than, maybe, again, selling the widgets or something like that. But it also adds to, I think, sometimes the excitement of what we do. And then, I think as it's ever changing, what you control as a business person is simply that, is just what you can control. You can control your output, your call volume, your appointments, and eventually your skill set, with all that combined together, will match and hopefully hit your results. So one thing I think it's important to talk about is, getting into sports, and maybe if you are looking to maybe take that path, is I would just always say, find what you want to do. Like, what are you passionate about? And I think the interesting thing with me is that, I love this. I love what I do. But if you told me tomorrow that I could take the CFO job for Haslam Sports Group, I'd be like, man, that's probably going to be a nice little pay increase, probably some cool perks and some interesting things, a C-level title. But that's not really what I want to do. And I know that, at some point someone's going to ask me about accounting, and that is definitely not something I want to do. So there's just some things there that, you got to know your strengths. I think that's part of being just aware of who you are, what you're doing, and what strengths you have to bring to the table, and then playing off those, especially at an early age, to make sure that that you get access to maybe the jobs that you want. Here's what I also say is, sometimes I mentioned earlier that pie in the sky mentality is, you want to be the coach, you want to be the scout, you want to be the next GM, and just say have a backup plan, right? Most people, you don't go to school to be a GM. But I hear it all the time. I want to get my foot in the door in ticket sales, and you're like, that just translates to I really don't want to do this, but it's the only job I have access to. So what I'd always say to people like that is, maybe try your hand in a minor league sport, and for that matter, it's you're going to try something, and then you might be asked to do multiple things, right? You hear minor league baseball all the time is, I was selling tickets during the week, but then I had to pull tarp because it rained, and I was doing building operations work, and then I helped, concessions, not like actually handing out hot dogs and stuff like that, but you know what I mean? Like you'll learn all these different and wear multiple hats throughout the course of time, and you might just get some exposure, but you might also get a platform for yourself to advance in one of those areas that you might have some more strength to. But and then most importantly, and I'd say this is maybe one of the best things that ever happened to me, is that you just need to find a good home, and finding a good organization or finding a good place. I was very lucky to get associated with the Cavs. There are a bunch of leaders there, Chad Estes, Doug Dawson, Mike Andreyko, to name a few, that were, very influential in what I was doing and how I kind of advanced through my career. And I still talk to those guys, on a fairly consistent basis. And then a lot of people that I'm working with now, I learn a lot from, just because they're very, very good mentors. So I'll touch on one thing and talk about getting into the sport. I'll share with you, my path. I didn't even talk about getting in. So 2001, finish up football career, really, really good grades. I was up in the 3.6, 3.8-ish range. And, I was making good connections. I still had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. There were no jobs because of 9/11. I was just in this really, really bad place, and, thinking I'm moving back home, which I did anyways. But I stumbled across the website. So this is really important. It's called, it's www.teamworkonline. So teamworkonline.com. And what that'll do is just open you up. Most organizations and teams throughout the country tend to post their jobs through that site. And I was one of them. And so I got really, really good access to potential roles. I found one in Cleveland, because that's essentially where I wanted to be. And then I was off and running. The other thing I would tell you is make sure that you're building your network. And, what's interesting about that is most people talk about it. It's not what you know, it's who you know. I don't even think that's true anymore. Actually, I almost imagine that's completely false. And the reason why is because I'll give you an example. So my first or second year, I think, working in sports, I actually had the opportunity when I was with the Cavs to be like a chaperone, if you will, or guide for Mark Cuban. So for a game, I was walking him around Quicken Loans Arena. It was actually Gund Arena at the time. And I was walking him around. I was asking him questions. I was suited up. I felt like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to want me to go work for him. I'm going to be the next billionaire. It's going to be awesome. And I would say that I look back and I kind of missed on a big opportunity because, you know, when the conversation was over and the next day happened, I could tell you right now, I know who Mark Cuban is. But if you ask him right now who Bob Sivik is, he'd have no clue. And the reason for that is I did not make a big impact on him or enough of an impact for him to remember who I was. So it's not about who knows you anymore. It's about, it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you. And that's the type of mentality I think most people should have as you're going through this. So a couple other things in terms of, I'll say, preparation for working in sports. I was asked to touch on a little bit. And again, this is somewhat universal. So when we train, obviously we train on results, right? Results is 51% of the equation. And then the rest of the equation to be successful or promoted is what we call 6 characteristics. And very simple, not earth shattering or not anything that's going to like be groundbreaking, but you need to have a strong work ethic. You have to have a positive attitude. You need to be open to learning. You need to be passionate about your craft. Right. And yeah, so if I'm hiring a salesperson, I want them to be passionate about sales, probably more so about sales than they are about football or soccer. I want them to be as passionate, if not more passionate, about selling and taking care of their customers. And then leadership is always a very, very good one. And then the last one I've recently added, to be honest with you, is awareness. And that's, you know, really just kind of your understanding of who you are, where you are, and your ability to be able to make sure that you're building on your strengths, you know, working on your weaknesses and constantly evolving and getting better as a teammate.
Yeah, that sounds like great advice.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, like I said, it's not anything anyone hasn't heard before. But I would tell you sometimes if you boil things down, as we all love sports or all kind of engaged in sports, you think about it when your coach, you know, and back in the day, like things are either going really, really good or things are going really, really bad. They always say it, get back to the basics, get back to the fundamentals. And sometimes those things are exactly where you need to go.
Interesting.
The other thing I'd give you guys advice on too is something people don't talk about enough, and that's sacrifice. And you know, I think most people get out of school or you're even working. I've been in this industry since 2002, and you'd think like, oh my gosh, I've been since 2002. I made it. You know, I'm a vice president. I can do whatever I want now. But I can tell you this: like, I sacrifice all day. I sacrifice every single day to make sure that, you know, one main goal is to provide for my family and give them a better life. But the other one is, you know, I do have aspirations of moving up in this world. You know, there was something Jim Trussell used to share with us back in the day. I encourage all of you guys to look it up. It's Albert Ian Gray wrote a little excerpt called "The Common Denominator of Success." So it's funny, if there's ex-teammates of mine on here, they're gonna like laugh because they've heard this about, you know, at least 4 or 5 times in their career. But he was looking for the secret of success, and what he came up with and what he found was that, you know, the secret of every person who's ever been successful lies in the fact that they formed a habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. And what's funny is you're like, all right, that seems like a pretty generic answer, but then you start boiling it down. You're like, what do people don't like to do, right? They don't like to work hard. They like to be negative or cut corners or do things maybe a little bit easier and take the easier path. Most of the successful people that I know are the people that take the harder path, don't cut corners, do things the right way all of the time.
Wow.
So that, go ahead.
Again, yeah, they sound pretty simple, but you have to be very disciplined to accomplish any of those that you've outlined.
Yeah, and listen, it takes time, and nobody's perfect. You know, anybody, you know, going through this, you're going to realize that, you know, you're going to have to when you're making sacrifices, there's times where you can't. And, there's times where, some, things carry over, family, friends, things like that, and then you have to find balance.
So you ready to take a question or two?
Yeah, let's go into that.
All right. One of the questions early from Facebook was, um, what's the impact of professional sports athletes as they're doing, a lot of them are doing now, communicating via their social media channels or in the news or even during the games about issues that are current, the current circumstances with regard to, the social justice things that are going on. Does that have an impact on your business? Does it hurt advertising? Does it hurt sales? Does it hurt naming rights, those kind of sponsorships that you're trying to acquire?
Yeah, it's interesting because, this is everything. Like, unless you're selling like computer chips or something like that, for the most part, like everything we do is based on people. And if you're not looking at people holistically in terms of, what is going on, in their brain or in their hearts, you're not really paying attention. And that's why, when you see teams out there that have, great dynasties, it usually comes from the fact that you have good coaches, good system, good organization, great owners, and people that are, players, everybody that kind of meshes well together because they care about each other. And, this is a time where I think, and I've talked to a few old teammates and some people that get my perspective. I think, like anything else, when there's challenge or somebody's hurting, is that people need to rise up and people need to pull together to be the solution. And I think as we continue to try to, be that voice, help our players use their voices and use that platform, we're going to do just that to make sure that, again, their message is heard.
Yeah, great. A couple of questions again relating to that experience and job search and career advice that you were giving. A couple of questions. Wanted to know, do these organizations offer internships, um, any of them that you're familiar with, and how would somebody go about sort of presenting their experience or their competencies or skills to an organization to get an opportunity like you've had?
Yeah, listen, in normal times, which we are not in right now, most of these organizations have plenty of internships
Oh, do they?
and, multiple internships or seasonal types of roles, fellowships, things that, you can get involved with, even down to just, we get a few dozen people that come in and just work camp for us, so there's all of these opportunities that are out there, or ways to, volunteer and showcase your abilities and what you're doing. My recommendation is that, find out how to first start, if you can't find the jobs, first start volunteering in ways that are going to be surrounding a role that you want to get involved with. I remember there were people back in the day at Youngstown that would, go volunteer for different events. And, even though it'd be like probably some security or this or that, they were, involved with it, and they could say, hey, I volunteered for this, I volunteered for that. And it was around sporting events or it was around events. And that might have put them in a little bit better of a situation to gain those internships. Now, I did not do that. I had to find a job that helped me pay the bills and help me, just earn some money. So I think I had a job with a local car dealership, calling up people to try to get them off their leases early, to sell them cars.
So you heard a lot of no's before you heard a couple of yeses, I bet.
Weirdly enough, when I was going through it, I don't think I appreciated it as much as possible, but just being able to pick, if you're going to get in sales and you haven't picked up a phone, find a way to do that. You can go, locally, your school, schools do fundraisers. You probably have different ways you can get involved with some kind of fundraiser, whether it be, maybe at a church or on a board or something like that. Find ways to get involved with that, and that'll help you if you haven't had the phone experience.
Yeah, I have our student organization go to the local annual fundraiser for YSU, and they
Mhm.
get a whole class in understanding how to use a phone to get things done.
It's not as easy as it looks. I'll say
It
that.
clearly is not. I got another question for you with regard to what's your thinking about what post-COVID sports and the industry is going to look like. We're talking about recovery marketing now, how to sort of put everybody back on the rails to get them to a successful quarter or a successful year. Do you have some ideas or observations about what it's going to look like and how soon we might be back to something that looks like normal sports?
Well, that's the $10 billion question right there. I would say this, like we're working very closely. Not only one, we have a great partner with the Browns and University Hospitals and with the crew in Ohio Health to understand, all right, what's safe? Like we don't want to be anything that's going to put our fans, our players, our staff, anybody, media in a position that's going to be unsafe. And so that's first and foremost. Secondly, then it's like, all right, could we be the beacon of hope, if you will, or nice distraction for people? We've seen awesome ratings. The crew's playing right now down in Orlando. There's the tournament down there that's happening. No fans, just yet. But it's professional soccer, and it's getting outstanding ratings. One, because there's not much else on, and I think a lot of people are migrating towards watching it because when you sit down and actually take it in, you're like, man, this is pretty good. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're in the ESPN Center at Disney.
Yeah, yeah. So they're down at Disney right now, in a bubble, trying to just stay safe. And I think that starting to figure out just what everyone needs to do to make sure that we can continue a season and then eventually put ourselves in a position to come back here, whenever, a month, 2 months to really start, getting in front of fans and playing in market.
Wow, that's great.
But
Um,
another way to answer your question too is,
Thanks.
what's interesting though is that, and this is a good analogy for sports fans, is that the way you have to run business now is like running a read option offense. You're in this mode where before you just call a play and you run it, right? You might have some contingency plans, or you should if you're a good business operator. However, now it's like you're going to call the play and you're going to pull the ball, you're going to potentially hand off to the running back, right? And depending on what happens, you might pull it and then try to run. And if you pull it, try to run, and the linebacker's there, you're going to pitch it. They pitch it. Maybe there's a reverse, maybe there's a pass. So there's all of these different strategies and plans around one decision or one plan that is causing a lot of people to say, it's over planning completely, but you have to get it right. And that's what I think right now is, when you're in the corporate community or world of looking at how you approach business, it's taking a lot of time.
Interesting. I have a question for you. This is with regard to your comment about the experience and talking about sales is typically not what we do to people, it's what we do for people. How often do you have to integrate with other functions in the organizations to make that experience what somebody is willing to pay for to increase the value of that experience?
Yeah, all the time. I mean,
Oh, do you?
we're constantly working with our marketing team, our analytics group, even our PR, to make sure that we're saying the right message, and we're getting things out that not only reflect the Browns organization ownership, but everybody within our group. And it's interesting because we're constantly surveying. Every game, there's multiple surveys. There's people walking around with clipboards. There's post game surveys. There's all these things that we just want to gather as much data and information to make sure that the next game we might change the way a path is, or some a way that we're doing concessions to help speed some things up, to help the overall fan experience. So it's constantly evolving, constantly learning, and we want to avoid, I talked about controlling what you can control. I can't control winning. And I know if we won 12 games a year, the hot dogs are hotter, the beers are colder. But at the end of the day, we can't do that. So what we can control is that experience from the moment you buy your ticket to the moment you're driving home. We want to make sure that we have some hand in that, and we can enhance that as best we can.
Wow, that's great. Another one we have is with regard to culture, diversity and inclusion. I know the Haslam family is from Tennessee, if I recall.
Yes.
They have a different culture, sort of in the South and Southwest about doing business, and we in the East often have a different culture about doing business. Do you have those kind of issues or relationship problems with organizations that have different cultures, different genders?
I think the interesting thing with that is that as an organization, and what's interesting about diversity is that it's good to have different diverse people all around you all the time, right? And they're going to have differences of opinion, and they're going to have different backgrounds, and they're going to have different thought processes than you. And I think what maybe the reason why we're in a little trouble now is because I think people look at that and they see that as you're wrong, and that now I don't have to like you because you think differently than me. Whereas I think as an organization in the Haslam Sports Group, like I feel like we think differently. This is a year ago we developed a diversity inclusion group task force within our organization, co-op between the Browns and the crew, and we're looking to bring in diverse people, different people of different backgrounds, different everything, to help our organization just be stronger. And that I think is starting to pay off some dividends and starting to really come to fruition even within this past month.
Yeah, that was one of the things that we're dealing with in most of the classes in the business school is how to work in different cultures, different relationships. And now we have this sort of working virtually where we're socially distant. We're still trying to build relationships at a different level. Yeah,
Yeah,
rather than interpersonal face to face, we have to do it virtually. And this is
yeah,
this was a great opportunity to do this. So thanks again for participating tonight.
yeah, absolutely.
Do we have any more questions? I'm looking for some more questions. I have one more, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
Esports, because we haven't had actual physical sports, tangible sports, esports has been a focus on a lot of colleges, sort of marketing and business school curriculums. Do you think that that's a viable or comparative opportunity for students in marketing management to look at esports as a sort of sports industry kind of organization that has similar kind of responsibilities and accountabilities?
Anything that fills up a stadium of 20,000 people should be paid attention to. And and listen, I know everybody wants to tease younger kids of younger generations about playing video games, but my generation did enough too, right? So there's a lot behind that, and I think that I would encourage anybody to just understand what that is, understand maybe where that industry is going, which I think is in a very good direction. And you've got to take notice to the technology everywhere you go these days, because that's really driving more industry, more decisions, more products than anything else out there.
Wow, great. Yeah, we're treating it like it's a sports category, a sports industry. And again, it has a lot of the same characteristics as live sports do, spectator sports do. Yeah. So thank you for that.
I feel like I missed my calling back in the day. I don't know if I would have been good at it or not, but
Yeah, I was pinball and foosball. I
yeah,
didn't, yeah.
yeah, it's
All
funny.
right. All right, I got one more. What type of customer relationship management sort of analytics or analysis do you do? And what kind of software, what kind of technology are you using to keep track of all of this information that you're grabbing from all of these experiences?
Yeah, data is king these days,
Is
and
that right?
and I think no different from us too is we work off of a few different platforms within Haslam Sports Group. So the Browns work off of Microsoft Dynamics, and the crew uses Salesforce. So basically, all that really does is just allows us to get to know our customer, to get to know trends, like even within minute by minute, we can run reports on something happens, right? So especially lately, a lot of things have been happening in our world. How is that, how are our fans being affected by that? And it allows us to make minute by minute decisions on, philosophies, strategies, tactics, and things that we're trying to do to, like I said earlier, take care of one of those three major goals: win, take great care of our fans, or give back to the community.
Wow, great. So that feedback's important to make decisions and respond effectively, huh?
Everything. And what's interesting is people will call in, and generally speaking, if they're mad about something, they want to talk to the owner. I was like, all right, that doesn't happen very
Yeah,
often.
Jimmy's never going to let that happen.
But what's funny is it sometimes does with the Browns, and Jimmy or D or JW or Whitney, one of them will jump on and talk to somebody, Browns or crew, and basically understand that they want to hear about it. But for the most part, when we usually get some of those types of things, it kind of rolls up into more of a report style, so everybody's voice is heard, whether it's good or bad. And usually if you work in service, it's more of the time or not, you're going to hear the bad stuff, which is fine. But we get that and we funnel that to make sure that we're presenting what's going on in the marketplace to upper leadership and ownership.
Well, that's great. So we got a question from Facebook that wants to know, what is a day like in this COVID environment for you guys?
Oh, well, I'm sitting in my son's old nursery right now. So that's new. And here's what I'd say is just it's a little different in that there's more access. Everybody is accessible at all times, and we're all so busy right now. It's kind of a busy time for us. So I could work tonight until 10 o'clock. This is working in sports in general is not your average 9 to 5. You're working nights, weekends, holidays. Like you might have a game on Christmas Day. And that might be your favorite holiday, but you know what? You're working that day. And that just kind of comes with the territory. But I'll say this, it's the best job I could ever imagine myself being in. It's like when you realize that you're kind of destined for one thing. I just got maybe pure happenstance lucky enough to fall into this and stay into it for as long as I have.
Yeah. One big question. We're going to go. You said it was a $10 million question, $10 billion question. We've got one from Facebook that wants to know if you think there's going to be an NFL season.
Well, we're certainly preparing for it, that we are. And
Oh, that's great.
everybody that everybody that I've talked to, league office, there's thousands of people right now at every team across the country preparing to make sure that their buildings are safe. They're presenting to our state and local governments of their plan to make sure that it's blessed. And then, eventually we're going to get to work and make sure that we, put together a good product. And I think, again, there's a lot of people that want to get out and go do these types of things, but we still need to make sure that it's safe.
Very good. Very good. Was there anything else you wanted to say in closing? I think we're running close to our time. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, like, for me, just, in closing, like, I would just see the way that I've kind of operated, whether it's from, I remember early on in high school and going through sports, or eventually when I got to college and I was off on my own, and then I got this big job working for the Cavs and then worked my way up. I always try to reflect why I'm there, whether it's, my mom, my brothers and sisters, my high school, my college. And, it's funny when I run into people, especially that are rocking the Penguin or the Y out there, and you see them and you're just like, man, I just got to go up and talk to them, because we have a lot of pride in what we do. And I think that as we continue to help each other in these types of sessions and share information, but also network and connect with each other, I would just say, let's just always encourage each other to make sure that we're making Youngstown State proud, and kind of carrying that torch, and continuing to kind of set that tone and path for the future classes coming through.
Yeah. Very good advice again. Um, Great to be with you. I do have one question personally, if you don't mind.
Sure.
What would it be like to work for you?
Oh, depends on who you ask. No, I would say this for me. I'm a very employee centric type of person. And, I'm a very results oriented type of person. And so when I bring somebody in, I do my due diligence on hiring and making sure that they're the right fit, not only from a cultural standpoint, but also from a work function standpoint. But then also, I mentioned those characteristics, right? My HR team probably wouldn't like me saying it, but I probably lean towards those 6 characteristics I mentioned earlier as those guideposts to me saying, all right, how does this person score in work ethic, attitude, openness to learning, so on and so forth? Because after that, I could train everything else. I could train the sales. I might even be able to push a little work ethic and nudge some people in the right direction. But all of those things I think play into that. But then I get close. I work. It's been hard sometimes the last year or so because I'm working back and forth between Columbus and the Browns, and the people I've been working with the Browns for 7 years, or so on, as how long they've been there. They're like, man, we miss you, and it gets to that point too where you want to stay involved, and that it's hard sometimes when you're working on multiple projects because like anything else, as a good leader, when you see like your comrades in battle, you want to jump off your horse nonstop, pull out the sword, and just start fighting with them. But sometimes you got to stay on that horse and make sure that you're leading the group and winning the battle. And but yeah, we love our people, and they love us back, and I think we have a very good mutual relationship that eventually hopes to turn them into my next role. Right? If you're a good leader, all you're trying to do is replace yourself. And it sounds like the most craziest way of running a business because you don't have job security. But if you're good at doing that, it's funny how talented your upper leadership will look at you and be like, man, this guy can create talent and grow talent. We need to keep him or her there as long as possible.
Yeah, we look at the same thing in higher education as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, again, great advice this evening. Again, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Um, Best wishes for continued success. Um, and I'm just going to close out with um, thanking our audience and letting them know that we appreciate them showing up. And thank you for the great questions and participation tonight. They were all right on target. I think Bob did a great job. We'll have to agree. I think we could clap for you if there's some means to do that virtually. We appreciate you being here. It was really a wonderful event. Thank you. We hope you'll join us again. We have Youngstown State Alumni Lecture Series continuing. There's a lecture again on Thursday, uh, July 23rd at 7 p.m. That's with the director of the McDonough Museum of Art, Claudia Berlinski. That should be a good one. Those of you who are interested in art, she's going to deal with the Emerging Artist Program. So that should be equally as entertaining as this evening. And then we have another one on July 30th with Jessica Williams, and she's talking about topics that relate to social justice issues. And I think she is doing, again, 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 30th. So please join us. And again, thanks for being with us this evening. Have a great evening and enjoy the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.